What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with Coin Mastery TV. Make sure you hit the subscribe button right below this video and the notification bell for daily updates. We're talking about daily crypto domination, financial revolutions, price action, macro, everything. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you guys coming. Quick note. The podcast yesterday, the file was very short when I first uploaded it. I fixed that quickly. In the future, if the podcast is ever messed up, I'll re-upload the MP3 quickly. I'll usually figure it out. Someone on Twitter will hit me up, and it'll go back to normal. So apologies for that. Should be back as of yesterday. But anyway, just want to let you guys know we're on it. Team Coin Mastery here. Okay, so today we're talking a little bit about Bitcoin's nice little breakout, so to speak. It's not even a breakout. It's kind of like a trend crossing. I want to show you a little bit about what I'm looking at as you guys watch the evolution, not only of Bitcoin, but of also I'm learning more and more about technical analysis, spending a lot of time trying to figure this stuff out. It's fun. I'm having a good time. Talk a little bit about Ethereum, overall market cap, a few macro pieces that I want to touch on, and really importantly, or specifically, I should say, the idea of what I consider to be the two worlds of crypto. And I want to explain what I mean by that in a little bit. Talk a little bit about what LightPay, a little bit of news that made, just so you guys know how that's affecting Litecoin, and then a tweet storm that I think everyone should read at some point in the next couple of days. I think it's really worthwhile. So let's look at Bitcoin. So before I get into this, a lot of people, surprisingly, have asked me how to make the graphs look like this. So when you open up your trading view or whatever, the first thing, if you want the volume to all be gray, you can just click on this gear box up here in the upper left corner. You click on style, and then you just make these both gray, instead of the buying and selling colors. That's just, I find that that's really helpful. And it's also something that people early on told me is a good thing to do. The next is you make all the candles the same color. And that's another good way to remove any sort of psychological bias from what you're doing. I haven't really gotten that point yet. I still like looking at the green and red colors purely as a learning tool, but that's just what's going on. And then to make this background black, just go over here. If you right click on anywhere on the screen, just go to color theme, and you can click on dark, or you can do light, or you can do dark. I just like dark. I think it's whatever, cooler. So anyway, a lot of people have been asking me that for whatever reason. All right, so let's look at Bitcoin. So this pink purple line has been the trend line ever since really we started. If we're on the 4 hour, I should go to the daily. That's really where I drew it. And you go up to the top here, you could see that at the all-time high, that wick, that's where this line started. And then it came down and it touched this candle on what I guess January 7th, which was the second, or the kind of, the next high that kind of drove the trend. Goes down this on February 21st, this, short-term high at around 11,200. This has nothing to do with that line. This line is purely drawn from these top two. This was actually kind of a fake out. We broke through. If we go over to the 4 hour, you can see this. You can see how we broke through, but we collapsed back through it, came back, tested support down here, and now we're breaking through it again. And so the hope is that we stay above this line. You can see how when it does break these lines, there's a big, the candles are very long, which means that there's a lot of vertical price action when you're going up or when you're going down. So the idea, hopefully, if we do test this back, would be to stay above it this time, or hopefully we're going back up. So that's where that trend line comes in. And you can see that after going back and testing this support twice, we had a big shoot up. If you really scroll in, you can see that this first wick actually did touch the trend line, but we came back down. And if I go to the 1 hour, you can see this a little bit better. It touched it, came back, and then it blew right through it. And so now we watch it again, and we really want it to stay above that as much as possible. So I'm going to switch back to the 4-hour here. Now, the other two things that I drew in here, this first one is just the obvious resistance from this previous February 20th high. So that's right around 11,780, give or take, on GDAX. Coinbase is going to be a little different depending on the exchange. And that lines up pretty well to some previous resistance back here. So there's definitely some resistance at this level, but the key thing is that we've already tested it once. So if we do get there, assuming the volume is that it may break through, which is why this one is a little bit, it doesn't hold quite as much weight, relatively speaking, right now. And then you go up to this upper limit right above 12,000 to 12,800 to 1330. This is going to be the next big one, because this piece over this all-time high, like we talked about, not all-time high. This high in this frame on January 20th was the last one before a big drop. So we're going to have to really blast through that. Then we get back up to, let's call it, 13.8, which is really kind of the beginning of this whole thing. Once we get through that, then we're in business. So we got some ways to go. And there's, again, this is only one way to look at it. There's plenty of different patterns that people can draw. Like there's retracements, there's head and shoulders, there's inverse head and shoulders. There's lots of different ways to draw this. This is just the way I'm interpreting the charts right now, what I'm looking at. I'm trying to keep it simple with support and resistance as best I can. So I would encourage you to go to TradingView, go to check out more ideas, get some ideas, and trade accordingly, and just practice. It's really what I'm just doing here. So I'm just practicing. I'm trying to get better as best I can, and but it's working out. It's cool to not only practice, but start to actually make really good decisions that can be profitable. Now we're flipping over to Ethereum. Yesterday we talked about Litecoin, which we'll talk about in a second. And Ethereum against Bitcoin is having, it's just doing its thing, right? I haven't drawn anything on this chart. And I think that it could be interesting, right? We'll see if this support holds, right? It shot back up and then it got dropped back down. But really, Bitcoin is it's just the name of the game right now. And you can run a few retracements on this and get an idea of where we're going. But that didn't quite work out. It didn't quite hit the same way. One thing you could do is you could draw it the other way, right? Like, so if you do a retracement the other way, you start to get in my opinion, a much more compelling picture. So if you draw a retracement back from the June 2017 high all the way down to December 2017 low, you're doing a high to low retracement. Now you start to see these levels start to work out a little bit better, right? Both on the upside and on the downside, meaning that this current price action, it's currently daily candle price action, this is the zone that you may want to look at. All right. So there's just different ways to skin the cat. This is obviously, I'm just doing this very quickly. This isn't, I haven't looked at it too deeply, but fundamentals aside, you may look at the longer term trend on that and make some decisions through that. So really interesting move, but honestly, this whole game of Bitcoin right now, this is everything. This is just going to drive it all. And then maybe you're going to see some coins here and there that are doing really well, like Omise Go is doing really well in this market. Litecoin was doing really well until this new LitePay news came out. But for the most part, it's just kind of, it's a good time to be learning this sort of thing, in my opinion. So flipping over to the CoinMarketCap, and let's just talk about LitePay. So basically, LitePay was scheduled to be released this week, maybe even today or tomorrow, but they sent out an email and they said that they're having trouble with credit card companies getting approved, and so they're going to push it back. And that caused, as you can see, switch over CoinMarketCap to the Bitcoin. You can see that Litecoin took a bit of a tumble. And if you pull up the chart on Litecoin, it's the same thing. It got hit pretty good because of this. This was this was a big part of what was driving the initial price ramp. Now, it's always good to kind of shake out things that may be inflating the price in many ways. It can give you good deals. It can give you a more accurate sense of the valuation, but it also shows how speculative this market still is. And I think that's the big takeaway for me, is that if there are things getting baked into the price that are purely about game theory, a great example of this is what's happening with Z Classic and Bitcoin Private, which I would encourage you guys to go check out. We've talked a little bit about that. I didn't get involved in that for whatever reason, but the whole market, it is still massively speculative. It is a game of stories. Who believes what? And that's it. And so I think when we look at the market cap here, the overall market cap, the thing that that sticks out the most to me is that, so we're right now, let's look at Bitcoin. Right now, in the last, let's call it 3 days, give or take, or two days, I should say, it's been going up, right? We hit the support, it's been going up. And yet, you look at CoinMarketCap and you look at the Satoshi price against Bitcoin, and it's going down. This is exactly how it looked while it was going down over here on Bitcoin's chart. Meaning, when the Bitcoin's price is dropping quickly, Satoshi prices drop. When Bitcoin's price rises quickly, like the prices can sometimes they'll hover, but they can also drop too, because people FOMO into Bitcoin. They don't want to miss out on the next bull run, especially when we're in this uncertain area. That is why it's really good to keep your hands on some Bitcoin. I mean, I sound like a broken record saying this, but bull run or bear run or bull run with Bitcoin, all these coins are suffering the same way because of this volatility in the Bitcoin market. So what you could do about that, if you wanted to, or the takeaway I have, is that you ease into altcoins right now, and you technical analysis can be really helpful to try to stay in the positive, right? I mentioned Omise Go. That's the one that I've really been keeping my eye on, and that has had a very strong looking chart relative. So even with all of this price action in Bitcoin, it stayed positive. Again, you should do your own research. Daily reminder, I'm not a professional. This is not professional advice. Just a regular dude sitting in an aquarium drinking Red Bull. That's all I am. Just a regular guy. So keeping, that's just something to keep in mind. You got to know these are the kind of decisions. This is the stuff that I think about a lot of the day. Is these if I do one thing, how does it affect what are all the potential outcomes of all these? And so, I think that's really the big decision to make, as opposed to what's the coin? How do I make the big money right now? It's more about just getting through this period first. Let's do a quick shift over to some news, a little bit of macro. Yeah, drink my water so that my voice doesn't fall apart. Now, Digital Currency Group, Barry Silbert, these guys are just crushing it in the crypto space. They have been for years. Some of the first money into Coinbase. They were one of the I think Series B, I think, into Circle, which obviously acquired Poloniex yesterday. And they have their hands in almost everything, not only currencies, Zcash, Ethereum Classic, Ripple, a lot, and exchanges and stuff. Now they're getting into the banking business. And they may have already been in the bank business for all I know, but this is the latest and one of the biggest investments, where they put in was 114 million into Silvergate Bank. Excuse me, I apologize for the cough. Silvergate Bank is considered to be a crypto-friendly bank, unlike some of these bigger banks. So we looked at Bank of America's 10K. Look at Goldman Sachs coming out yesterday and saying that they're, crypto's anti-crypto, whatever. Traditional banks, JP Morgan, Chase, are not crypto-friendly. if you wire money in and out of these banks, sometimes they'll say, nope, not going to let you do that. Your account's shut down. That obviously creates a huge opportunity for someone like Silvergate and in also Digital Currency Group. Mike Novogratz and Galaxy Investment Partners are doing the same thing. They're raising a couple $100 million for their own bank that's crypto friendly. This is a very interesting development. And as stated in that 10K in Bank of America, this is a real threat to major banking. If crypto demand increases and these banks could absorb a lot of that demand by being crypto friendly or whatever, that's a huge problem because it's not about the numbers. This is the key. It's not about the physical number of people that sign up for the account. It's the average value per customer. And the average value of somebody who would be interested in Silvergate Bank is going to be extraordinarily high versus somebody who has a regular job and gets their direct deposit into the bank and have a 401k. Very different profiles, and this is broadly speaking, right? Like very, very loosely speaking. We're talking about people wiring in and out 6, 7, 8 figures. So this is going to be really interesting. And as this develops, you better believe that the big banks are going to do something because there's no government law against this. Like FDIC, as far as I know, they'll still insure the money in the bank as long as the bank is compliant. There's nothing about the FDIC that says, hey, if this is crypto money, your bank is no longer FDIC insured. And even if it did come to that, there's got to be some insurance company that would come in and privately insure the banking system. And that's when it gets really crazy because then you have like a whole private banking sector, which I'm not sure you could really pull off. It's like a credit union, but it's not really. This is going to be a very, very big trend. This is the kind of thing that compounds the pressure on the overall market. Right? And now, similarly, BlackRock, I think it is the biggest private equity company in the world. So just like so everyone understands, like Digital Currency Group, venture capital, which is slowly turning into a private equity company. But venture capital means they go out and they find startups or privately owned companies, relatively small, that are raising money and they invest money. That's kind of the business model. Private equity is a private company, usually, that just has massive amounts of money. That's not they can go and they'll invest in stuff like bonds or equities or currencies or commodities, as well as some companies, but they just have more flexibility. So it's just a little bit of different business model. Private equity is much bigger, just broadly speaking. So just so like anybody who doesn't know when we're talking about this stuff, what the difference is. BlackRock is huge, massive amount of money, big in the pension game, big in the ETF index fund game. And many people in BlackRock have been very bearish on it. And they came out with a statement. They said, look, once the market gets legit, this could actually, there's something to this. We're not going to completely deny this. It's just that the market is too immature yet. And if this is the stuff that they're saying publicly, you better believe that 6 months ago that this is what the internal meetings were about, at least on some level. Maybe not at the top management, but somewhere. And so it means that it's giving them the out that when they want to get in, they can get in, and they can kind of determine, well, look, we've done the analysis and the market looks good and blah, blah, blah. But I think that the big piece from a macro standpoint that I would encourage people to really start thinking about, and this is a huge, huge, important macro theme that I've touched on. I touched on last week, and I want to touch on again. There are two worlds right now in cryptocurrency. Okay, there is our world, which is going to CoinMarketCap and analyzing altcoins and analyzing coins in general and looking at token economics and crypto assets and ICOs and a lot of price and trading and technical. That's one world. That is the crypto whatever world. And it's a bubble of that sense, where the overall sentiment is that this small thing is going to get huge, and then it's going to replace or take over something else, right? I'm speaking in broad terms here, but you know what I'm saying. The blockchain world. On the other side is the finance world. I mean, not even the finance world, like the business world, the money world. And that includes not only banks and private equity companies, that includes like companies, tech companies, healthcare companies, travel companies. I mean, everything that's a publicly traded company, privately owned company is over here that is not involved in blockchain. And right now we're seeing two divergent forces. We are seeing the blockchain community world, our world, trying to break into the business world with new forms of products, with new token economies for different uses, with things like utility tokens and protocols and blah, blah, everything, all the buzzwords. But in reality, the big stuff is going to happen when the existing businesses, the existing companies that are making revenue as it relates to the way capitalist societies work, as earth beings have, ideological earth beings have decided it to be, once they get into blockchain, that's the big thing. And so we're watching these two things intersect, and there's obviously going to be a huge power grab. That's this whole banking thing, like who's going to win, competitive spirit, threats. There's going to be a huge transfer of wealth. There's no question about that. And I think a lot of people are going to do well because you're smart and you're in the know. But what you got to really start to think about is that the forces that come into blockchain and crypto are like an order of magnitude bigger and more lucrative than trying to go from being the small guy and take over this system. I mean, it's so much bigger that I can't even describe it. And so one thing I am really thinking about a lot is I look through my portfolio. I look through the coin market cap every single day, and I think to myself, how is this going to go from business side into blockchain world instead of going from blockchain world into business world? Let me give an example of this. And I don't want to pick on any coin here because if people own the coin, they're going to freak out on me. But let's use SIA coin. I don't know. I might own a little SIA coin, but whatever. This has nothing bad or good to say about SIA. This is just an example. SIA coin is a distributed computer system. Everyone's computer works together. It's like Gollum in that sense. And, there's all these different coins that do this sort of thing. And the idea is that SIA coin will become so big and it'll become so powerful that it will then go in and replace, I don't know, like Amazon Web Services, right? Or it will take over the existing provider. It will disrupt the world. What I would encourage people to start thinking about, especially if you are into this to make money, which I would say a lot of you are, instead of thinking about it that way, think about it in terms of Amazon Web Services sees blockchain or distributed ledgers or distributed, they see the tech. What are they thinking about? How are they going to take Amazon Web Services and get it into a blockchain world? When they are sitting there and they are, let's say they're looking at this list, let's say they're looking at ICOs, let's say whatever, what would they want to use? What tech would they be willing to use to take their company, their platform, and get it into blockchain? Do you see how it's like a slight difference? It's not even, it's just a different way to look at how the change is going to happen. And I would be willing to bet a lot. In fact, I mean, that's what we're all doing right now. We're betting on which of these you believe is going to happen. I believe that it's going to go from companies into blockchain and not necessarily from blockchain replacing companies. It's an unpopular opinion from like a lot of the maximalists out there, but that's how the profit's going to go down. And you're starting to see this happen, right? Like when you read between the lines and all these headlines, this is what's going on, is that they're sitting there being like, well, we can't ignore this, but we certainly aren't going to let it take us down. So how do we leverage what these people, what they're building into a way that we stay on top, right? Like that's kind of a crude way of saying it. And so I would encourage everybody, and this is something I'm doing a lot of, and unfortunately I don't have the answer for you. Nobody does. I don't know which coin's like the thing. But when you go and you look through and your portfolio, ask yourself, which of these coins are coins that are not going to disrupt a company, but a company could come to them and still stay on top? In fact, a company would get more and more profitable because they use this blockchain technology, this coin or this token. That's the key. And I think the more we think about that, the more you think about that, the more I think about that, when we look at 2020, 2022, 2025, the big winners are going to be the coins that solve that problem, right? Let the revolution stuff, that's going to happen. Like it's going to happen. It's going to happen differently than we all expect it to happen, but it will happen in some level. There will be a shift. There's no question about that. But when it comes to how this is going to go down, you got to think about the big companies. What are they going to adopt? That's why stuff like Bitcoin Cash, I am not a fan of Bitcoin Cash, just as much as you, probably not, but I still own it because there are still companies, very powerful companies, that are looking at this and being like, you know what, Bitcoin Cash is, blah, blah, blah. It's got this faster, bigger block size and it can do this. Like they drink the Kool-Aid and they move into Bitcoin, like that can drive the price up like crazy. Because it fits into that narrative. Same with Ethereum. I mean, Ripple's, that's what Ripple's been all about for so long. That's why I'm very bullish on the top coins. That's why I'm bullish on the ones that have the established networks already. That's why I focus on the top coins. I don't go after these long shot stuff unless there is a very, very clear use case for profitable businesses to get into blockchain. Things like oracles and all that. So anyway, this is going to happen. And the reason why I'm bringing it up now is because when you look over at where we're at with Bitcoin, the price is going to do what it does. I mean, will it jump back up here and we go into another massive Elliott wave and it goes up to 60,000? Maybe. I'd be down. If it doesn't, maybe it drops down to $5,000. We go into a 2-year bear market. I don't think that's going to happen. But if it did, that is what it is. But it doesn't mean that you can't still make money. Just like you got to think differently. You got to be more competitive in how you think. Not everybody's going to win because not everybody's going to get this stuff. And this is what is going to happen. Mark my words. Anyway, last piece. Tweet storm from Alexander J.A. Cortez. I do not know Alexander. Looks like a good dude. And he is some sort of coach, mentality coach. Anyway, he did a tweet storm that's called The Untaught Truths of Adulthood. And it's really just a kind of a self-serving list of maybe 100 or 200 of these one-liners that are, it could be a billboard, each one of them. And I don't know. I don't consider myself like an old man or an adult. I feel like I'm a very young person. But I do think that as I've gotten older, you realize like how much these truths are really just like they're cliches for a reason, right? That's what people say. And I think that anybody at the very least, it's just a good refresher to look through this. If you're young, if you're listening or watching this and you're a young guy or girl, I would encourage you to read this too, because I mean, I've said this before. If I knew then what I know now about how the world works, and how lucky you guys are, or you all are, the young people in this world, because you just have so much access to information. It's just such an incredible thing. But anyway, check this out. It's a fun read. It's a little kind of, whatever, but it's good. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue our march onwards towards this next resistance zone. We'll see what happens. But I'm telling you guys, when you read the news, when you look at anything, the money's going to come from the top down. Doesn't matter if you like it. Doesn't matter if you hate it. Doesn't matter if you want to deny it. It's going to happen. That's how the big money's going to be made. All right, guys. As always, it's terrific being here. It's great chatting. I will catch you tomorrow. All right, peace out.